So hello, I'm Rachel from Knowing in Nature, and I am currently up in beautiful Far North Queensland, and I'm here with Leigh, but I'll let Leigh introduce himself, say where we are, even whose country we're on, and we're going to have a yarn today. So Leigh, who are you, where are you from?
So I'm Leigh Stutchbury from Games of the People, and we are here at Granite George, which actually sits on Cocoa Mullarigi country. I was born in Sydney, but my ancestors are from Ireland and England, so a massive Celtic influence involves my everyday life, influences who I am as a person. And yeah, I think knowing who you are and where you come from is a very important piece to discover about yourself. For me, it came from my own sense of culture, my own identity. I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time and live over in my ancestral parts of the world, country. And for me, I struggled as a young person, lots of disconnection. And when I went over there and discovered about my ancestors, the culture of my ancestors, life began to make more sense for me.
So having grown up in Australia?
Yeah, so I grew up in Corindai, which is on Gamilaroi country, Gomeroi country, and grew up in typical, I guess, middle-class Australian environment. My parents are lovely people, they're teachers, but there was a real lack of connection that I felt, and it didn't quite fit and make sense until I was able to go over and discover those parts of myself from where I was from, and where my ancestors were from.
Where did you find yourself wandering when you say go over to? So, like, what regions of those landscapes did you find yourself wandering in?
So it takes, my mother's line is from County Meath and Westmeath. It's the Kerrigan clan. So a big emphasis on that. I spent a lot of my time in London, lots of lineages from London, Surrey, Suffolk, and Suffolk was around the area of the Boudicca, or Boudica, the last Celtic queen who fought against the Roman Empire. That's around her area, which is quite interesting, and obviously got Scottish influences as well. And I think a lot of Australians will have links to a lot of those Gaelic countries and Gaelic languages, because there's different parts. When we talk about the United Kingdom, it's so vast and it's so different. You know, it's a bit like Aboriginal Australia. Like, there's so many different mobs across Australia, and they all have their different ways, but also share those similarities as well.
Yeah, of course. So when you're in those landscapes, having grown up in Australia, in this continent, what did you experience within yourself, if we're talking specifically about connecting into those ancestral roots? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Firstly, it's a sense of peace and home, and I can't quite academically speak into that. It's just that feeling that you get. And when Mob here talk about that sense of connection to country, that's what I'm speaking into when I'm over there. I mean, the country over there and the landscape is very different, and it meant very different things for our ancestors. So understanding the seasons over there and the cycles of the environment and nature sort of helped me connect. Even running business or doing work stuff, it helps you connect into those more aligned ways with the rhythms of the earth.
You want to expand on that a little bit, and your way of knowing and understanding that, and how that shines through for you? Because I feel like in this current times, we're sitting by a creek right now. There's a pace to it, but the pace that most people are living in is other than this. They don't have all this space and access to the fresh air. A lot of it's recycled air. The pace is tick, 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 which is governing their actions and their thinking and their doing for many, many different reasons. But in mentioning that's how you can operate your business and I guess live your life through that peace, connection and what the cycles and seasons and those emergent patterns, how do you apply that, or how are you applying that, and did it shift you?
Definitely. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm still learning. I think what we were speaking into earlier about right time, right place. So I guess in modern life we want things now, and we want to force things, and we want things to happen like according to, I guess, the modern society or the modern calendar that we live in. But nature doesn't do that. Everything happens in perfect timing, and you know, over in the Gaelic countries, you've got something like winter, for instance. So the start of the new year for the Celtic people was something called Samhain, which is now modern Halloween, and that's the night of the ancestors and the time of the ancestors, and that's when our new year starts, and it starts out of darkness. And so, especially I found over in England, like people are like, oh, I just want summer, I want summer, I want summer, I want brightness. But winter actually allows a lot of time for reflection, for going within. And I found the winters over there for me, and understanding who I was and why I came here, very profound, because it allowed me to deep dive into aspects of myself that I probably wasn't able to do here in Australia. So I found, you know, Australians go over there and they hate the winters because it's cold, but for me I just felt a massive sense of peace. And then spring comes, what we'd say is Imbolc, the first day of spring, and that's when we start to plant the seeds and nature starts to begin to come back to life. And I guess in business and work, that's when you plant the seeds of what you want to do, and then obviously moves on to summer and the expansion of summer, which is really beautiful. It's all out there, it's wonderful, nature is, you know, blooming and growing, and then we come back into the harvest, what we'd say in Celtic culture is Lunasa, and that's when we reap the harvest of what we've done in that cycle. So that's to give a brief explanation. Obviously there's a bit more in depth, but living as close to that over there really, it really made sense for me. I've been on a journey trying to explain what Games and the People is, and actually stepping into what it actually is and how to promote that and communicate that to people. It's my own self-belief coming through and standing in who I am as well. But the simple way is Games of the People focuses on the first games, the first teachings and first values of Indigenous cultures across the world. So by telling the stories, playing the games of these cultures, we're able to step in the footsteps of these people and understand the mindsets of these people to help us thrive in as well as we can in a modern world. Games are a great teacher. So we specifically work with children 6 to 12, and through looking at the stories and the meanings, which is always something that has really ignited my soul of these games, it was an important tool for a lot of cultures to teach kids to step into that next phase of life. And games are such a fun, non-confrontational way to share knowledge and to bring forward valuable lessons. And you know, kids I've always worked with kids, and it's super important to bring forth that healing for the kids, because they're the next generation, right? So that's Games of the People in a nutshell. There's obviously deeper layers to it, but
Can you remember the first game that you ever learnt, I guess, or arrived to?
But the first game I played was actually when I was studying to be a PE teacher. It was a subject I was studying, and we played all these games, and the instructor actually introduced me to this one game called Edor. Now Edor means the running game, and it's played by the Wickamunkin people up near Carricoon. And the joy that comes through with a game called Edor is like something that I couldn't explain at the time. I was 19, but that was my favourite game. And I work with the First Nations children at Yumba and across the creek in Mariba, and there's something about Eeyore that just ignites their soul. It's like a remembering of the culture of that game. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that. It was Eeyore. Yeah.
Games are the people to me. I was like, oh, what is that? Where did he get it from? Who is he? Where's he from? Also going, we are all indigenous to this earth. Physiologically, we're all indigenous to this earth. Some of us have had the severing or the interruption longer than others, and it's a staggered event everywhere. Same as in this continent, because it is so big. So there will be lots of people who have had a longer interruption in this continent than other people in different areas. So for some, like even we go looking with mob too sometimes to experience our own cultural connection through mobs in this continent that seem to have a deeper, stronger, more vibrant and on the surface connection. It never kind of went to sleep or wasn't put somewhere safe for safekeeping, you know, it wasn't beaten down as much, but still affected. So I see this, I look at things from as many positions as I can respectfully to all people involved in their own lives and what they're going through. And I was like, I wonder if this is a thing that is actually inclusive, that does respect and honour all of what we all have come from and ways of being and knowing and interacting that are actually more harmonious and inclusive and respectful and not dominating, you know, where we don't need to have a winner because if we're all participating, therefore everything's winning kind of thing. So they were my kind of question marks, wondering, sussing, looking, and that's why I thought, well, I'm in the area, let's sing out to that fella. Hey, Leigh. Yeah, and it's nice to learn, and I guess it'd be great to experience as well and have ways of play that help us, even from little people to big people that are, nobody was given a manual for life, even though we've got the whole planet, which in a way is a living manual, but not many people are reading that book. So this is another, like a little part that's written in the book called Games that can support us in understanding where we are, where we come from, how to be relational, how to interact, how to be okay with taking turns and leading and following and all those things that I'm assuming are wrapped up in this.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to, during COVID, I was down in Muswell again. I was working at a mushroom farm, but I ran into an Aboriginal lady who was married to a Māori man. The name's Ross Paharu and Kate Wood, and we sat down and we actually developed a model based off, you know, the values, the common values that we all share as Indigenous people, and they were simple, actionable steps for kids to understand how it relates to the game, but how to apply that in the modern world, right? So, you know, the common values such as the importance of storytelling and how that connects us to who we are, where we come from. But it also helps us learn about other people and to share those similarities. A big part of the model is the connection to the earth. So being able to use our senses in nature, and a lot of games help us develop our senses. The fact that we only need to take what we need, and we're taking what we need, using what we have. In modern society, we're just wasteful and chuck things out. So humility is another big part of my program, which is challenging to explain to 5, 6, 7-year-olds, but just to plant that seed of good character and humility. The fact of what you shared before about working together and understanding that everyone has their role. Everyone has their role in society. No one is better than the next person because we're all part of the web of life. We're all connected. So sharing, showing kindness and compassion. Another big two things part of our model is the fact of having a strong mind and body. So you think about Indigenous people, how they were living with the earth, that required awareness, courage, resilience. I guess it was part of the DNA and it was passed from one generation to the next, but you know, we've got so many kids who don't show that now, and to be able to give them those perspectives and experiences. And the last really main thing that we teach is something I'm really excited about, and it spoke into what you said about competition before. It's the fact that everybody wins. So during a game, yeah, we can have a winner and a loser, but what can we learn from that? What knowledge can we share? Like, I remember over in England, and the game of football is so popular, but it's so tribal, and it's very quite toxic, and kids were crying if they weren't winning, or you know, kids were fighting. I'm like, there's something wrong here, and I see it in Australia as well with modern day sports. But yeah, the fact that what can we learn from games? You know, what can we learn from winning and losing, and what can I share with you to help you as well? Because especially like I was talking to an Inuit elder, and you know, they live in the coldest climate in the world. It wasn't in their interests for one hunter to be better than the other, because then that hunter's family would not be fed for. So it was about all being good hunters and helping each other in those environments. And that's something I really resonate in games, and the fact there's so much to learn, and that sense of, I guess, healthier competition, but the fact that everybody can win and everybody can take joyful experiences and teachings from it. What's very important is that that the cultures that I'm representing, not just my own, but the cultures of the games, are respected in authentic ways. I want to make sure that the land is respected as well, the land that I'm on, and that it serves the need of, I guess, Mother Earth and the environment. So it's been an interesting journey with that. I have done some work down in Warramai country, which is near Newcastle. Been fortunate enough to learn from an elder there, and they live by the water, by the sea. So their games and their teachings are very different as opposed to up here in Far North Queensland, inland, you know. So, and also I do play games from other cultures, but the emphasis is on Aboriginal cultures, because this is the land that we are on.
Of this continent.
Of this continent.
Yeah.
And that's really spoken to me. As much as there's all these other great games, and sometimes it is appropriate for them to be included, but to make those connections to this continent is ultimately where the healing takes place. Firstly, it's just such an honour and privilege that I'm able to do the work. Think about these cultures, these living cultures. It's not something that's happened in the past. It's you know, the ancestors still with us, and for me to be giving even a platform to share these games with the children I work with, it's just an honour and a privilege. That's all I can say.
That's beautiful, so thank you. Thank you for sharing with us today. And if we want to find you, Leigh, how can we find you? How can we find Games of the People if we're looking?
So you can look me up on Facebook, just Games of the People. I've got a website, a very basic website. It's www.gamesofthepeople.com. And you can contact me by email if you want, just have a yarn as well. I'm always open to sharing, and learning. I don't think Games of the People is by far a finished product at this stage. It's still in its seedling state. So
it's just the beginning of spring.
you know what? Yeah, it is, because I've been through the winter, I guess the dark night of the soul. I've done a lot of healing ancestrally, and you know, I'm 29. This is something that has been in the works since I was 22. So people might see it, oh yeah, it's games of the people, oh this is fun, we're playing games, but this has been something that's been years in the making. And you know. But what we'd say in, I've just been learning Irish language, my mother tongue, and that's helped me connect quite deeply to my culture. And now I'm understanding, you know, why, you know, in a heart-based sense, why language is so important for the mob here. I'm actually experiencing it myself. And, it's like, it's gone from there, oh yeah, that's important to learn language, to there. And we'd say Aran Mór, which means the great song of life. So I don't know why I said that. I think it just sort of came through. But I think that points to the fact that, you know, it's always growing, it's always changing. So Games of the People is by far a finished product, and going to keep learning, keep respecting, keep, you know, doing things the right way.
It's alive, it's living and
it's
breathing.
It's living and breathing, just like, you know,
like this world that we're in. And you never know, if you find yourself up in North Queensland, you might just bump into Leigh wandering around in the bush somewhere, or
maybe
walking down the streets of Mareeba. Yeah.
Thank you so much for
thank you.
Yeah, giving me the platform to speak.
No, it's wonderful. And thank you to everyone for listening and watching today. Thank you.